And we're live. Welcome to Music Matters with Jason Tramm. Thank you so much for joining us for a unique podcast community where we explore the triumphs and challenges of the performing arts world as seen through the eyes of distinguished colleagues. And thank you for helping us grow. We hit 1,665 subscribers. Thanks to you. Please remember to subscribe to us on YouTube and smash that bell icon for the most up-to-date information on our upcoming guests and topics. Here on Music Matters, we have conversations with people from the classical, the opera, the indie singer-songwriter, rock and roll, jazz, rap, you name it. We talk about artists from a variety of genres, and we look at universal stories of triumph and challenge and all the things that make the arts great. So thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited you're here. You can see us on YouTube, on Facebook Live, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and also on the radio in New York City on Sundays from 11:30 to noon on WMCA in Manhattan. So thank you so much for joining us. We have a really interesting story today. We have the founders of Off-Brand Opera. We have Erin Kennedy, Christine Duncan, and Veronica Shea with us today. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Well, as an opera person myself, I'm so excited to hear about this new company, and it's really new. So when did you start, and what was the idea behind Off-Brand Opera?
Veronica, would you like to tell the beginning?
Sure. So I like to say that this is sort of the best accident that could have ever happened. So I was talking to these lovely ladies. We all share an incredible voice teacher, Andrea Del Giudice, who is a miracle worker.
She's been on the show many times and a good friend. So
exactly.
That's good to hear.
And we were talking about Into the Woods because I had just recently produced Into the Woods, and we were trying to figure out how to use these rights because we were unfortunately unable to use them in a previous iteration and they were about to expire. And I was like, I just want somebody to do Into the Woods. And Erin was actually just like, let's do it. And I said, I don't trust anybody else on this planet but you to actually make this happen. I said, if it was anybody else that was joking in that way and said, we're going to do this show, I wouldn't have believed them. And I said, I think I can see in your eyes that this is actually going to happen. And then shortly after, we brought Christine in and we realized that we were such a good trio that sort of, even though we were sort of doing everything, we would all just sort of naturally gravitate towards tasks that we were great at. And it was working really, really well. And we said, I don't think that this should be a show. This should be a company. So then that was how Off-Brand Opera was founded.
That's a big decision. So how do you guys divide up the I've been involved in founding a few different companies. I know it's quite a challenge. There's so many moving parts, and producing a production is exciting and challenging. And you have the show coming up like next weekend. Is that right?
Correct.
Yes. So it's next Friday through Sunday. Sorry, we're all in different places. We're all talking.
So
it's like a middle school dance. I love the Zoom feed.
We naturally gravitated towards different roles because we have backgrounds in these different roles. So before I went to music school, I worked in arts administration for the Handel and Haydn Society in Boston in development. So I worked with donors, I planned events, and this is also the role that I held at Bear Opera when I helped start Bear Opera here in New York City. So, I love client relations, raising money, throwing parties. So that was my end.
Fun. And Erin, tell us about your background.
So my part in a lot of this has been pianist and professional organizer. So specifically with this show, I think I've really been running all the rehearsals and from behind the piano, and also really on top of sending out all the emails and doing a lot of the legwork and the literal details to make it happen. I think one thing that surprised me about all of this is I have not been in a lot of organizations where it was immediately clear what people would do. We've hardly ever had an issue come up where we didn't know who was going to take care of something, or no one could, or everyone was going to do the same thing. And I've said this to multiple people, but this is truly one of the only organizations that I've worked with in my entire life, where someone else has been able to say, I'm going to do that. Like, don't worry about it. And then I have proceeded to not worry about it, and they do it. So it's really been wonderful. Veronica, you can talk a little bit about what you're bringing.
Yes. So my day job is I actually do marketing for off-Broadway theaters. Currently, I'm the director of marketing at the York Theater, which does all musical theater all of the time. So it is a perfect tie-in to this. And to echo what Erin was saying is I've been describing it as the best group project ever as well, because we all know back in the day of group projects when you felt like you had to do the entire thing because the rest of your group wasn't going to do it. We were all those people who did all of the group project. And now to be able to realize that we don't have to do it, we can actually truly split things into thirds and take on a task and know that if we are not taking it on, that it is still getting done and getting done well is a breath of fresh air for me at least.
I love that idea of a trio force of different talents, and you guys have found this dream team of combinations of talents and personality. It's really exciting. So coming out of the pandemic and the cancellation of that, having the rights and finding that show, you picked a hard show, right? I mean, Sondheim's always tricky.
It is. As I was saying before the podcast, if I was starting a second theater company, I'm not sure I would start with Into the Woods. It's a big show. There's a lot of people, but in some ways it's been a wonderful opportunity to figure out who we are, simply because we're bringing in so many people. We have a cast that ranges from opera singers who, like, this is the closest to musical theater they have ever gone. And then we have some actors who have had a fun time getting to sing when usually that's not the type of role they're accepting. And it's really wonderful because we have so many people from so many different musical backgrounds, to learn from each other and figure out that that's really what we care about as a company is bringing different backgrounds of people together and learning from each other and making music.
That's exciting.
And showing. Sorry,
it's exciting. Please go.
No, I was going to say, and showing opera singers that it's okay to sing musical theater or another genre, and also vice versa. Having
I think singers today are much more diversified. I think because we've had to be. You see a lot of when I came up in the business, the people didn't cross over as much, but you see a lot more crossover these days.
Mm-hmm. I used to think that to do crossover, I somehow had to change my voice too. And one thing we've asked all of our actors and singers to come into this show with is their own voice. Come as you are. Feel free to sing this piece and interpret it in the way that works for your voice and your style. And that might be a little controversial to some. I used to think, well, if I'm singing the witch in this production, if I'm going to sing the witch, I have to belt everything, and I have to sound, quote unquote, like musical theater belty. And this company allows me to have a little bit more freedom and say, wait, what if I do mix in my classical training and some of my folk music training and bring it all together? So that's one thing that's very important to our company, and one thing that I've really enjoyed seeing our actors and singers bring in.
It's exciting to let people explore and to do all that exploration together, both as a company and as a cast. And how exciting. Tell us about the venue you chose for this event. It's always hard to find venues in New York City. I do a lot of concert work, and it's always a challenge to find the right venue.
So we are performing at Alchemical Studios, 104 14th Street, so 14th and 6th. And it is this white box theater, small white box theater. But it has this amazing light hang. So we have a lighting board and we have lights programmed for the show. So it has the feel of a very small theater, but it's all on one level. So the audience is literally right there with us, but they are immersed in the lights in the show. And we are able to utilize the aisles and every part of the space around the audience to make them feel like they are in the woods with us.
A totally immersive experience. We're seeing that more and more in opera and musical theater is interesting, edgy productions. How did you come up with the concept for the show?
Oh, to me or
whoever.
Well, I'll say a lot of the show. Oh, sorry. A lot of the show has been working with what we have, and to be frank, the show has changed as our literal cast has switched out. We kind of came up with this in September, and we've had a lot of people coming in and out, and and so we are actually constantly changing our idea of what these characters are, um, and how they're going to be sung and what the music itself is going to look like. We are not doing a full orchestra. We have two wonderful pianists, and I think that's actually a wonderful opportunity to really focus on lyrics and really, the unamplified voice, whether it's operatic or not, is something really powerful that not a lot of people get to hear in any theatrical context these days.
These days I have that's always a problem I have when I go to a Broadway show with my kids or I go by myself. It's just so overproduced. Like I can barely tell where the real voice is and where the reverb and all that mixing stuff. I just love to hear real singers. That's great. I think it's really exciting. It gives people a chance, and in a small venue like that, you don't want a big orchestra. It would take away from the performance, I think.
Absolutely. And the decision to make it this way was in part because we love the unamplified voice and we love an immersive experience. And that's what's made so many people fall in love with opera again or for the first time. But also, we have to work with what we have. We knew that we weren't going to be able to, get a sound system and produce it in the way a lot of these Broadway shows are done. So work with what we have, with who we have. Work in a space that we can afford and that we can put up this show in as a young company.
So important you work within the budget. And I always say that whenever there's not a huge budget, creativity has to be front and center. And that's where the innovation happens, is when there's not a lot of money.
Yeah, and we've gotten so many innovative ideas from our actors in this show. I'm directing the show as well as playing the witch. We're all wearing these hats, but I will say, we were trying to solve some of these low budget directorial problems, such as the cow in the show, Jack's beloved cow, Milky White. She gets milked at one point, and we actually do have a human Milky White in our show. But we're saying, how are we going to, do we get udders? Like, how are we going to do the milking of this cow? And our wonderful Jack, E.B. Hinnant, he said, well, what if Milky White, since we have a human and she looks kind of human, I mean, she's not, we're not disguising her very much. What if she brings on a half gallon of milk, which she holds close to her when she won't milk. And then finally, when we get her to milk, she'll reluctantly unscrew the cap and pour it into the cup.
I love a good challenge and a good solution. That's fun.
It's still it's so simple and so funny at the same time to watch, because you just see our Milky White Stacy carrying around this half gallon of milk, refusing to share it with anyone because she. So,
we have our first question from the audience. This is for all three of you. What did you three? This is from Brooklyn Sam. Brooklyn Sam asks, what did you three think about the movie that just came out, the Into the Woods movie?
Oh, it was not my favorite.
Or mine.
I think that is a perfect example of what we're talking about overproduced voices in an extreme. And that's what happens with these movie musicals, unfortunately, is they're done in a studio, and then these people are trying to bring these characters to life while not singing live and not being able to actually show their full voices. So I feel like naturally you can't actually get into a character that way.
Although I will say, and I'm not a Sondheim purist also, I mean, I didn't know this show before a couple months ago. I really enjoyed a lot of the acting and the way the world was brought to life visually. I have to say that Meryl Streep's Witch was incredible. I get what you're saying about overproduction. I know, right? But I don't know, just seeing that world come to life in a different way than I'd seen it in the Broadway show was great. I don't know. I wouldn't say they were my favorite musical performances or vocal performances, sure. But I love it for different reasons. And I think that there is space for many different versions of these beloved shows.
That's what makes them special. They can live in so many different ways. The cinematic universe gives you so much more visual possibility, but the live musical theater is certainly a different thing entirely. How about you, Erin? What did you think?
I remember walking away from that, and I think I probably said to all of my friends, I was like, the child actors were great. And then I was like, everyone else was like, who you expected them to be. And I think that was the reason that the kids were great, that Jack and Little Red were great, is because they somehow we're not yet old enough to have an idea in their head of what exactly singing the movie version of Into the Woods, like they didn't already know what that was supposed to sound like. And I think I get that from a lot of movie musicals. It's like we have this idea in our head of, well, what it's supposed to be. What is the baker supposed to sing like? What is the witch supposed to sing like Christine was thinking earlier. And I think in general, like obviously it's a wonderful cast who are great actors and really made the most of their roles, but it's very, very hard to separate from what we're expecting. And I think the most exciting performances come from when it's not what you think it's going to sound like.
Good point. Well, all very good answers. Thank you so much. And thank you, Brooklyn Sam, for listening. So tell us what, now you come first show with a Sondheim musical. Have you started plans for the next kind of chapter, what that may be?
Erin, do you want to take this?
Sure. Yeah. So I think in our initial planning, we're thinking we'd like to do 3 shows a year, which is either a lot or a little, depending on how much you think about it. And so I think a really nice balance for us, the 3 of us are all classically trained opera singers. I think I currently dabble a bit more in straight musical theater, but that's something we really wanted to force ourselves to keep pulling from multiple areas. So I think in our minds, we do a musical in the fall, and then we do something opera-based in the spring. Likely not a full opera. I think we're very interested in putting together sort of pastiche of scenes. And then in the summer, we really want to do something maybe outdoor, children-focused, encouraging children to start singing at a young age. And so that's
so
kind of
important. Develop that next audience.
I
think it's great to develop that next audience and to dig in there. And I love the idea of musical theater and opera both because they come from the same lineage. And I always view Sondheim as kind of like he said he doesn't like Puccini and not a big Verdi fan, but he is writing modern opera all the way.
Absolutely. Now, Erin, are we allowed to tease anything about what kind of opera we are going to do, because we are going to also push the boundaries of what opera is and how it's done. That's what our company's all about. Would you like to? I think
it's very fair to, yeah. I think one thing we see a lot of, like, there are so many small, awesome companies in New York that are like, we're going to make opera cool. And while we definitely want to make opera cool, I think we want to do that in some different ways. One thing we've talked about is doing opera in translation, but doing opera in modern translation, whether that's commissioning new translations, making them ourselves, but really focusing on making the language how people speak today. We have a wonderful composer, Jake Landau, who wrote an opera that the 3 of us have been in over the course of the last year, Pietà. And one of very rare experience for opera singers, we're all walking around quoting it, which we almost never do with opera. And it's because it's written in the language we speak. And so that's something we really care about. And then another thing is, just like we are trying to bring opera singers and bring other types of singers into musical theater, we think that opera itself can benefit from other types of singers as well. And I want to be careful and say it's not just for fun's sake. This is like, all of our decisions are going to be character motivated and storytelling motivated. But there might be a really compelling reason why a traditionally soprano character maybe we transpose it and it's now a musical theater belter. And that might be a really interesting thing. And I think that's part of the wonderful freedom of having a very small company is we can try that sort of stuff out. And it's a very intimate, safe space where people can see if they like it.
Well, it's a great chance to take some risks and do something different, because you have to do something different to make that dream come alive and to find a niche for yourself. And I love the idea of combining the 2 styles. It's really exciting. So how do people buy tickets, and how do we find out, where's the website? Where can people go to find out more about the production?
So, sorry, phlegm. So our website is offbrandopera.org. So you can go right on there, and as soon as you get on the homepage, there's a link to buy tickets, as well as a link to just know more about our show. So you can read a little bit about that, as well as all of our bios, see our photos, all of that. And we do have an auction going on. Ooh. So we are 14 actors in the room, but there's a 15th performer that will be joining us on stage. Our giant will be joining us each evening. So we have auctions, and you can bid to play the giant on Friday or Saturday or Sunday. So we're going to have 3 different ones. And we're really excited about that because we've been speaking about how something even as small as changing who the giant is and their interpretation of that role will change how a lot of Act Two goes and how we feel. So if
Very
you
cool.
have been watching and you are like, I want to be in that show, you still can. So you can click that link on offbrandopera.org
This
and you can
is
be
the
the high bidder.
moment.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
join us on stage.
Fantastic.
And the giant will be on book. So, and you don't
Oh,
need
yes.
to have any previous acting experience. We will help you through it. You will be mic'd. That is the one role that will be mic'd. And you can read it from the audience. We're also being inclusive about who can play the role. In the show, the giant is a woman, but that doesn't mean that our giant has to be a woman or identified that way. So come as you are if you're interested in playing the giant.
You mentioned Jake Landau. I just did a project with him. Great artist. I'm supposed to do the American premiere of that show. I can't wait to work on that. I hear just nothing but great things about that Pietà production. And you guys were all in it in the summer, the Italian version.
We were, Erin and I were also in the version that was filmed, the recording, and I believe all 3 of us will be in it in the American premiere.
Oh, fantastic! That'll be a blast.
Next year. Yeah.
So we'll see you there.
I hope so. That's exciting.
I just want to say we would be remiss to talk about Pietà without talking about the amazing concept by Andrea Del Giudice, our wonderful teacher. And I think that's part of where we all get this idea about you have your voice and use it. Because I never expected to be able to go into a voice lesson and work on Quando me vo in the first half and then like The Baker's Wife in the second half. And so I think she has taught all of us so much about this very relevant thing that is.
We called Andrea's show The Voice Whisperer, and she's I always call her The Voice Whisperer. Yeah. It's been my.
Oh yeah, she saved my voice and got me singing the right repertoire. But yeah, this idea that she's given us, this skill that she's given us, that we can sing with one voice. I used to think that my musical theater and opera voice were separate, but she's really given us a great gift in that way.
I've had some opera personality. I've had some Broadway person. We've had lots of opera personalities on the show. We've had some really good Broadway ones, and some of the really good Broadway ones have been. I had Christiane Knoll, her father was a famous conductor, and she was trained as an operetta singer. But it was talking about how to place the resonance. Really, it wasn't the voice was different; it's the resonance. The think of the resonance was slightly different, and that makes sense to me. It's like not that different. It's just how you place it and where you put it and. The way you approach the text is also a little bit different too, I guess.
Yeah, what's the analogy you were using the other day, Erin? It's something like you have the voice and then you put filters on it. It's like a photo with filters.
Filters.
Yes. Totally. And your job is just to stand there holding your throat open and letting it come out, and then you can put your filters on stylistically, but your voice is your voice.
So I have another question from someone else. This is from a Crazy Cat 45, and this person asks, what's each of your favorite opera and musical? Go.
Into the Woods might be my favorite musical.
Good answer.
To be honest. So I'm also music directing this production, and this is my 3rd time being in Into the Woods. And every time I look at it, I find something that is so clever, and it feels very relevant because it's a musical about finding how to make it okay, even when things are really not okay. And that feels very relevant in these last couple of years. I need a sec for my favorite opera, but I think that's my favorite musical.
I would say my favorite opera, so hard to choose.
I know.
But I'm a Verdi girl. I love Traviata with all my heart. I love everything about Verdi. And then my favorite musical is the newer one. It's Hadestown. I haven't
seen it yet. Everyone's talking about it. Yeah, it looks really good.
Which was written. So I actually, back in the day, I met Anais Mitchell, the composer, because she and I were both in the same world folk music scene up in Vermont. And she originally conceived this as a folk opera. that's how she labeled it. It's a folk opera. Before it was a Broadway musical, that's what it was. And I just love that Broadway is bringing these fresh styles, sounds, and new ways of doing things. Broadway
It doesn't have
in
to
a way
only
is
be
doing
Disney.
what we're
Oh.
exactly.
Yes.
And it is a brilliant show. So much so, I saw it right before the pandemic, and then I went to see it again in October. So I cannot recommend it highly enough.
Awesome. Thank you. How about you, Veronica?
So I hate to copy, but my favorite opera is also Traviata. I just think it is stunning. I love every second of it. And my favorite musical, going a little bit further back, is A Chorus Line. So it's a great way to just feel it's not immersive, but you feel like it's immersive even sitting in a 1,000-seat theater, because you're really hearing artists' experiences and their real life experiences and feeling like you're connecting. At least me, having always been an artist, being that I'm like, I get it.
We certainly do
So,
get it. It's
that's my favorite.
that those themes resonate very deeply indeed. I had a guest on the show. I had who was Greg Bookalter was on the show, and Greg was in the movie Fame. Like, what? How come I didn't know that? It's amazing. He's a conductor.
Very cool.
Yeah, very cool. Erin, did you find it? What's your favorite opera?
Yeah.
Don't say Traviata.
No, well, so
Unless
I
it's
was
Traviata.
actually going to say, I had a truly transformative experience this summer singing Pietà and Suor Angelica side by side. And I honestly never, Suor Angelica gets swept under the rug a lot. Whether that's because it's an all-female cast or because it's a one act or because the Met's barely done it, like, I'm not sure. But having that pairing and the deepening of the story that Pietà brings to it, as well as the insistence that Pietà has on attending to the modern ear and winning the audience's trust, I think that combination specifically has come to be my favorite operatic experience, definitely.
Cool. Yeah, I love Suor Angelica. I did the last time I was in Narnia. I did the Suor and Johnny Skiki, and
Yep.
I've seen the Tritico at the Met. Boy, it's a long show. The Tritico is very, very long when you do all three of them. Often we do the two with Suor and Johnny Skiki get done, but Tabaro usually gets the shaft, unfortunately.
Yeah, did you see the last production at the Met where Stephanie Blythe played Principessa?
I did not. But I went to college with her. She was she stayed in SUNY Potsdam for a very long time. Maybe she was a 7th year undergraduate and I was a freshman, so she was significantly older than me. And I was there, and I was in an a cappella group. I was a freshman, young kid singing in an a cappella group, high lyric tenor, and she was singing "Walking on Broken Glass" with my men's chorus and with the chamber orchestra. And I have it on VHS somewhere. Because I'm old.
That's amazing. Oh gosh, I would love to see that.
The voice was a Mack truck, even that. I was like, oh my God. And I saw her do Hello Dolly at Opera Theater North in Potsdam. She's great. Yeah.
Yeah, she does a lot of crossover too.
She's doing more and more these days.
Absolutely. And yeah, that was a great experience. You conducted me in Narnia in that production.
That's right. It was
That
beautiful.
was fun.
What a great time. It's always a privilege to make music in Italy. I just love going back there where opera was born. Mm-hmm. Everything's so
That
ancient.
town is truly, the most stunning place I have ever been. Just walking there, you just feel everything feels different.
Time stops. It's kind of neat. It's great to reconnect with the birthplace of this genre, really, because that's where everything was born. The birth of monody and the Florentine Camerata was not far from there. And these guys, as it spread, that's where everything happened. Rome and all the opera world spread from there.
And thank goodness it did.
Yeah, and I think, and I remind everyone that musical theater comes out of a lineage with operetta, which we're all in the same lineage and tree, so it's not that dissimilar. So the more you can get people to realize that there's commonalities and there's connections, and companies like yours do a great deal to get people involved in both opera and musical theater. So I really encourage what you're doing. It's very exciting to see it grow, and can't wait to see where this production goes.
Well, thank you so much.
That's too.
Yeah, we're really excited.
Any ideas of what people like? What is off-brand? What's the kind of ethos that you're going for? What do you want people to think when they come to see the show? Why should they come to this production, and what's going to be special?
I think with what you were just saying, so what I am passionate about is telling stories on stage and connecting with audiences and telling just as universal of a story as possible. And I think that that is something that Into the Woods does so well. And I think that that is where opera and musical theater merge. I don't think that they need to be separate. I don't think you need to think of this show, or frankly any show, as one or the other. So if we can do a little bit of showing people that art is art and telling a story is telling a story, that is what is most exciting to me. And also, I've been talking to a couple of friends about it, and they've never seen an Into the Woods that's not epic and giant on stage with giant sets and costumes and a million people. So to be able to really dig down to the root of this story and tell it to people that are 10 feet away from us is something that I'm very excited. And I hope that they feel like they are a part of the story by being in the room with us.
Amazing.
Beautifully said. I want people to be intrigued by what our name means. What does off-brand opera mean? What are they
does
doing that's
off-brand
so
opera mean?
off-brand? Well, I mean, I came up with, we were searching for a name for our company. We knew we worked really well together. We knew we had a shared vision of crossing over, pushing boundaries of how things are done. And thought, well, we're opera singers, but we're doing something a little off-brand for us. And, you know, I think that I have held on to this idea for years that I have to be on brand. If I want to be an opera singer, I have to be a certain way, sing a certain way, do certain things, look a certain way. And this is just off brand for me. And that's a beautiful thing. Like, I'm pushing myself, and hopefully we all are pushing ourselves outside of our own comfort zones. I know some of the other actors who don't do as much singing, who we brought in, are pushing their comfort zones in the same way, but we want to create a safe space for doing that. We want audiences to be intrigued by the name. And so go, they're doing something off brand. Let's go see what that's all about.
I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one question that I wish someone had asked me probably 10 years ago in my vocal and acting study is, what do you want to sing? And I had wonderful teachers, all of whom guided me down really excellent paths, but I never really had to consider that question until the pandemic hit. And I thought, gosh, what's really sustaining me right now? What kind of music am I drawn to? And how does my voice want to use itself when no one is telling it what to do? And so, you know, I think we all have these lists of, well, you look like this character, so you have to sound this way because you look this way and you're this old. And I think it's really, I want our company to be a good place to work where people feel free to try the things they want to do for, you know, and get a wonderful creative result with the new interpretations. And so that's probably the most important thing for me, is that we give people chances to ask that question of themselves and say, what do I want to be singing? What story do I want to be telling? Because frankly, I don't think the business asks that often enough.
3 talented minds coming together for a new company, Off-Brand Opera. And this weekend, this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, on November 19th, 20th, 21st, we have Into the Woods, which is very exciting. Make sure you check that out in New York City. And so we talk a lot on this show about artistic innovation and self-discoveries during COVID. As artists, we were all affected so greatly. Everything stopped. We all stopped all of our performances. Everything ground to a halt. How did each of you deal with that, and how did that manifest itself in this company?
It's because all of my operatic gigs got canceled and the train kind of like ground to a halt, right? I had space to think about what Erin was saying. What other music sustains me? What else have I maybe lost sight of that I want to do, or what are new things I want to try? So I really went back to a lot of my world folk music singing roots, and I would record a different video every day of a song, and I would just pick different genres, some things I'd sung before, and just record that for myself every day. So really having the space to think about what else I could do, or what else I may have lost sight of in the day-to-day busyness that was my life before the pandemic has really made me feel so much more, open to new possibilities and a different kind of performance.
Very nice. I love this idea of exploring other things other than classical music, because we all have music that we love that's not only classical music. We've had Mark Delavan on the show. He sang Jimmy Buffett's Pina Colada. I mean, I just love that artists can be so interesting and versatile, and how creative the creative track artists are these days. I mean, we've all had to become something different than we were. I think it's just amazing how creative we can be when we have to be.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And don't get me wrong, I still want to do opera and am doing it and love it. But there are space for other things. There's space for other things too.
Like founding companies.
Oh, yes. It's the fresh start effect. The psychologists call the fresh start effect. New Year's can do it. Big events, right? You kind of feel like there's a stopping point and an opportunity to do something, to change directions or do something new.
We certainly all need that fresh start. This summer I started with a new company. It was just, after COVID and everything crashed, I lost my debut in Vienna and Prague. It was such a bummer. We spend so much time setting these things up, and then everything grounds to a halt. So, when you start something new, it gives you that jolt of energy. How exciting it must be to start a new company and to be a part of a production that opens up nothing but work, but of course also that excitement as well.
Yes.
I'm so impressed that you guys found time to talk to me today, because I know how crazy it can be when you're in production mode.
It was our one night off, and we're very happy to be spending it with you.
We are so happy. Yes.
We'll really appreciate
but yes, we are
that.
quite busy. Yep.
I think one thing, just to go back to what Christine was talking about a little bit, is for a long time I've had this theory, which is that musical theater is, and as you were saying earlier, an inevitable evolution of opera and operetta. And really what it is so identical to what role opera used to, classical music was at one point contemporary. And really, what we're doing with our musical theater is just what people were doing with opera. You're singing in the language people speak, in the musical styles popular at the time, with the vocal stylings that are popular at the time, to tell stories that are relevant in the time and place. And so I think that's kind of the mind I have, and we have with any of our work, is if we're doing Into the Woods, all right, well, why? And and how can we hold on to those things and those easy lowering of barriers of communication.
Very nice. Well put. Well, I'm so excited to hear about the show this weekend. I hope everyone comes and checks it out. We have some people talking about coming. I think that's great. I'm sure tickets are selling fast. It's a popular show. And get your seats and check this out. Tell us again where we can go to find out more about it.
So you can go to offbrandopera.org.
No hyphen.
Lots of O's. Yes, no
I'll
hyphen.
put that
Offbrandopera.org. Thank you.
It's in the chat. There we go.
And we are also on all those good normal social medias. Find us on Facebook and Instagram, maybe TikTok one day when I find the time to do that.
I haven't gotten there either. I'm like, I'm old. I don't want to get on TikTok, and but I have my daughter maybe get on Instagram. I'm like, oh, fine. I've gotten on Instagram these days, but for the podcast. But I just love the fact that artists can become so accessible. You guys are all on there, and people can ask questions about the company, or maybe volunteer, or find a way to come forward and learn more about.
Definitely. And also a lot of this information is on our website. We have a volunteer form. We currently are set for Performance Day volunteers for Into the Woods.
I hope so.
We are certainly looking for people who are interested in being involved in the future. So if you feel so inclined, come check us out, offbrandopera.org, and get in contact.
It's another great way to get involved with an opera company, is to volunteer and to help backstage. There's always so many things you can do, because one thing I know about opera is it takes a lot of people to do it well, and a lot of moving parts, and whether it's the publicity or whether it's the playing music, or helping backstage, or props or costumes, there's just so many things to do.
Absolutely. And if you would like to collaborate with us artistically as well, if you have some ideas, you want to get involved, feel free to reach out to us through our website as well.
Well, we have a lot of artists on the show, and it's always amazing how synchronicities work, and can't wait to see what the future holds for this new and exciting company. Thank you to Christine, Veronica, and Erin for joining us tonight, and wish you nothing but success this weekend and beyond.
Thank you so much, Jason. It's a pleasure to be here.
All the best. Thank you for joining us on Music Matters with Jason Tramm. Please remember to subscribe and like us on YouTube and share our videos as it helps us grow. Check out that concert this weekend. Make sure you check out Into the Woods in New York City on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's the 19th, 20th, 21st. And check out their website at www.offbrandopera.org. Thank you very much, and keep music alive.